This is the third of what will probably be 4 post-Helene episodes. This episode is going to cover the Cane and the Nolichucky rivers. I did not venture farther into Yancey County to cover the Tow River. My original plans were to head to Poplar, but found that route to be difficult. Toward the end of this episode, I will cover the Cane River during my travels up there. Mostly, though, this episode, it is going to focus on the Nolichucky near Irwin. Irwin is a small town in Tennessee, not far from the state line of North Carolina and Tennessee. It is about 50 miles outside of Asheville. I am not covering the town on this episode, but rather the river that helps to define the little river town. Now, I did not venture into the downtown core of Irwin. Large parts of the town were heavily impacted. However, I did not have much time to hang around. I was in search of something else. Personally, I know a portion of the Nolichucky very well. I have rafted it like 4 times in the 2010s, and I fell in love with it the first time I descended it. It became my second to most favorite river on the East Coast to be on, with the first being the Chattooga, a river near the Georgia and North Carolina state line that also did endure significant flooding. Most of its length is especially remote and did not receive as much attention. The Nolichucky, however, devastated a portion of Irwin that lined its banks. One noteworthy event appears to be the scouring away of the mountainside over there, with that large cliff there now exposed. Even over a month after the storm, the damage is still readily apparent. There was once a bridge here across the river, but it was washed away. Lots of bridges in the affected region were either washed away or severely damaged. This is the river that flooded a hospital and caused a major problem for workers at a nearby plastic plant, both events of which were briefly discussed in the first post-Helene episode. As heartbreaking as those events were, they will not be covered here. What will be covered here is one significant event that arose a number of weeks after the storm hit. Originally, I wanted to see just what was going on for myself. The Nolichucky Gorge, the most beautiful section of the river, is especially remote and difficult to reach by car. There is no apparent road that leads into the gorge, and that includes from either the Tennessee or the North Carolina side. Therefore, much of the work this article discusses, it is likely to not be within my grasp. If I had a kayak or a raft of my own, that might be a different story. As it stands now, the Irwin area is all I have. There is railroad work going on here in the area, though I shot very little footage of it. Much of the railroad appears to have been repaired, which includes that bridge down there. Now, the river, it appears here to be running on the far side of the floodplain over there, but am I walking on riverbed or floodplain here? I am not exactly sure. Old pictures of this area show a much wider river, which has me a bit concerned. I guess it could be due to maybe low water, as if it gets higher, much of this is covered. Still, I know many of our rivers have been altered in ways that are hard to comprehend, but there is this nagging question. Did the railroad company scour the riverbed in this area? I doubt it, but I'm not sure. Let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. Not after reading what has been happening deeper in the gorge. In order to build the railroad company, CSX, is said to be mining the riverbed. In other words, they are tearing the riverbed apart to gather rocks to use for railroad construction and fill to stabilize the banks. Usually, that is illegal, especially if they are digging below the natural high-water mark. After the storm, though, I guess they have been granted permission to simply destroy the river. Did CSX really think they could get away with this without anyone noticing? I mean, boaters were out there testing the river. Well, they became concerned that the river could be damaged in such a way as to no longer be able to provide the recreational activities it has always been known for. Now, I understand that the flooding itself did change the river, but it has been reported the changes might even be better for such recreational activities. And beyond that, human nature, that is not the same as Mother Nature. We do not have the right to simply take it upon ourselves to ravage an entire river unless that is the last resort, and the last resort only. Even if it were to be the last resort, it should still be overlooked by a geologist, a geomorphologist, or a similar person, who would direct the involved parties where and where not to dig. Such a geologist or whomever, furthermore, should be appointed by an ecologist or a similar person with no connections to CSX. However, there are likely to be alternatives to any of that. For example, hauling stuff in from a quarry. The gorge is remote, yes, but they are running small cars on the tracks as it is to transport stuff. Besides, how are they getting the metal for the rails in? I mean, you ain't finding that in the river. Well, you may find pieces of mangled track scattered around from the storm. Somehow, though, I don't think mangled rail pieces will cut it. Regardless, this is ill-advised and needs to be investigated. Luckily, a court case is now resulting from all these concerns. Now, I understand the railroad needs to be rebuilt, or at least I think it does. There are issues regarding the history of this railroad that are beyond the scope of this episode. Reportedly, it is still an active railroad. My understanding is that some trains had to be rerouted like 200 miles or so to compensate for the loss of this railroad. Not sure about what the trains were carrying or how many run through this area. It used to be a coal line, but has since been repurposed for other services. It is referred to as the Clinchfield Railroad. Personally, I am not sure about which side of this issue I should be standing on. As a river advocate, I want to stand with the river. Still, upon seeing footage of the gorge, I am not sure about how they can rebuild the railroad without digging into the river. In some places, there barely are any banks left, and there is no road in the gorge. I just hope there are alternatives, otherwise this river may no longer be navigable, or maybe it will. There just may not be a way to know until it is too late. At best, a geologist or someone similar should be overseeing this, telling them where and where not to dig. Furthermore, most of the footage of the gorge is from another YouTube video, as I had none. Links to those are at the end of the episode. So, if you care about what the Nolichucky River is being put through, then sign the petition in the description. Now, let's move on to this river, the Cane River. The Cane River could be considered one of the forks of the Nolichucky, the other being the North Toe River. As the footage from this area can show, the Cane River and its floodplain regions have sustained massive damage. Even over a month after the storm, this road, it still is not good. In fact, I am surprised I am allowed to even drive it. There is a lot of work going on here. The road was open, though. I am a bit concerned I might be told to exit the area or something. That never did happen, but as you can see, this road is not good. In spots, they have made like a little alternate route. Furthermore, up the road, the portion that leads to the town of Poplar, it appears I cannot go straight and must make a left here across the bridge. That's all well and fine, but this is not the route I need to take. Therefore, I doubt I can reach Poplar going this way. There does exist another way to get there from the Tennessee side, but I am simply going to pass on that one. The Nolichucky Gorge does not have any roads in it, and if it did, I doubt they will be easy to drive on, especially after the storm and finding this road still not so good. Anyhow, folks, that's about it for this episode.